This is from Noella, and she's on X, and she says, let's never forget that at Daystar, Joni was the only other person who directly heard baby Lamb's outcry outside of her parents and never pursued justice.
Imagine this. You're sitting in a room full of people who claim to love you. People who say they are your family, your mentors, your spiritual leaders. They smile, they pray, they preach about righteousness. And then, one day, you find out that behind closed doors, these same people are covering up something horrific. You try to speak. They silence you. You try to seek justice. They shut you down. And when you refuse to back down, they make you the villain. Sounds like a movie plot, right? But this isn't fiction. This is the real-life nightmare that Jonathan and Susie Lamb have lived through for the past year and a half. It's a story of abuse, betrayal, and a cover-up at the highest levels of Daystar television. And today, we're exposing all of it. Buckle up. Because once you hear what Susie Lamb just revealed, you'll never look at Daystar the same way again. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button so more people can see this story. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Truth Today. We uncover the stories they don't want you to hear. On X, formerly Twitter, a user named Noella made a bold statement, one that accused Joni Lamb of actively covering up for an alleged predator. She wrote, "Let's never forget that at Daystar, Joni was the only other person who directly heard baby Lamb's outcry outside of her parents and never pursued justice. She stopped Susie and Jonathan from going to the police. She quickly declared Pete innocent and continues to protect him." This post sent shockwaves through the online community. If true, it means that Joni Lamb, a woman many see as a spiritual leader, chose to shield an accused predator rather than seek justice for a child. But it doesn't stop there. Noella also mentioned something chilling. Did you all hear that audio from Arnold Torres last night? Brutal, brutal man. After all, he was just doing what he was told by the board. He and Steve Wilhite don't even seem to understand the situation, only blindly following orders. Why do all these guys sound like zombies parroting their masters? The accusation here is clear. Key figures within Daystar have been working to silence Jonathan Lamb and protect the institution at all costs. And then came Susie's response. Susie Lamb could have ignored the post. She could have stayed silent, just like so many others. But instead, she chose to speak. In a heartfelt and gut-wrenching message, Susie described the torment that Jonathan Lamb endured for a year and a half, almost daily. She recalled how he would constantly text her, asking for prayers as he faced yet another attack from those within the ministry. He was in tremendous pain and anguish. He couldn't eat. He was a broken man. Let that sink in. This wasn't just about losing a job. This wasn't a simple disagreement between leaders. This was spiritual abuse, a deliberate and sustained effort to crush a man who dared to stand up for what was right. And despite all this, Jonathan never stopped being a devoted father. Susie went on to say, "Yet he would come home and play with the kids and be so present for them. I know that was supernatural strength from God. It's one thing to suffer in private. It's another to carry that suffering while being gaslit, slandered, and betrayed by people who claim to represent Christ. And let's not forget, all of this unfolded while their child was the victim of something terrible, something that should have led to immediate legal action. Instead, it was covered up. One of the biggest questions remains, why would Joni Lamb, the face of Daystar, suppress an investigation into a potential predator? According to Noella's post and Susie's response, Joni refused to let Susie and Jonathan go to the police, quickly defended the accused predator, Pete, allowed Jonathan to be tormented for speaking out. These aren't just minor mistakes. These are deliberate actions that protected the institution rather than the victim. And it wasn't just Joni. Arnold Torres, Steve Wilhite, and other members of Daystar's leadership were also complicit, whether through direct involvement or blind obedience to authority. As Noella put it, why do all these guys sound like zombies parroting their masters? The answer is simple: power and control. When organizations like Daystar grow into multi-million-dollar empires, the leaders start to believe they are untouchable. They prioritize the brand over the people. And when someone dares to question the system, whether it's Jonathan Lamb, Suzy, or an outsider, they are met with swift and brutal retaliation. Susie Lamb made another powerful point. We've heard the recordings, and yet these pastors are either silent or attacking the people standing up for Jonathan. Think about that. Pastors, people who are supposed to stand for truth, justice, and righteousness, are doing one of two things: saying nothing and pretending this scandal doesn't exist. Attacking the victims instead of the perpetrators. Silence is complicity, and attacking victims is spiritual abuse. Suzy's plea was simple. How about standing with Jonathan? How about coming alongside a young man who has been spiritually abused, whose child has suffered, and who has been ignored? The response from Daystar's leadership and their loyalists has been the opposite. Rather than admit wrongdoing, they have doubled down, defending their actions, gaslighting the public, and hoping this controversy will fade away. But it won't. Because people are watching. What's happening at Daystar is not an isolated incident. We've seen this pattern in churches and ministries around the world. Powerful leaders covering for abusers. Victims being silenced, shamed, or pushed out. Loyalists attacking anyone who dares to expose the truth. This is how institutions maintain power. It's how they weaponize faith to protect themselves. And if we, as a society, don't call it out, it will keep happening. Susie Lamb's response has opened the floodgates. People are now asking the hard questions. Why was Jonathan Lamb forced to endure 18 months of torment? Why did Joni Lamb shut down any attempt at justice? Why are so many pastors refusing to speak out? Who else knew about this, and what else is being hidden? The truth always comes out. For Jonathan, Suzy, and their family, this journey has been one of immense pain. But it has also been one of courage. They refused to be silent. They refused to let fear stop them. And now, the world is listening. If you're watching this video, you have a choice. You can ignore this story, like so many pastors have. Or you can stand for truth and demand accountability. Share this video. Speak out. Ask the hard questions. Because abuse thrives in silence, but truth grows in the light. Joni Lamb, Arnold Torres, and the leadership at Daystar need to answer for their actions. And most importantly, Jonathan and Susie Lamb deserve justice. It's time to stand with them.